done? What came over me? Who am I? It was wonderful. I loved every minute of it. But
Sally Field couldn't stand him more than anyone, and that bitterness came from a life that was already tough long before the drama started. Born on November 6, 1946, in Pasadena, California, Sally Margaret Field grew up surrounded by Hollywood faces, but that didn't make things any easier for her. Her mom, Margaret Field, worked as an actress, and her stepdad, Jock Mahoney, was a respected actor and stuntman, so the spotlight was around her from day one. And please hit the subscribe button. It costs you nothing, but it means a lot to me. Even with that glamorous setup, Sally's childhood was full of emotional ups and downs, trying to navigate the chaos of a blended family. She later described herself as this shy, insecure kid, someone who kept her head down even when she had a spark that everyone else could see. Underneath all that quiet energy, she had a natural gift just waiting to break out. After she finished Birmingham High School in Van Nuys, Sally finally caught her first real shot on television, the moment that shifted everything for her. In 1965, she blew up overnight with her lead role in Gidget, a fun little sitcom about a bold teenage surfer full of spirit. The show barely lasted a season, but Sally's charm and timing hit hard with viewers, making her an instant favorite. Just 2 years later, she stepped into another unforgettable role in The Flying Nun, from 1967 to 1970, playing Sister Rill, a joyful nun who could literally take flight. The series was a major hit, but Sally later admitted that she felt boxed in by that sweet, bubbly girl label everyone pushed on her. She knew she had more to offer and wanted to show she could handle real emotional weight and complex characters. That hunger for something deeper changed everything for her. Determined to flip the script on her own career, Sally threw herself into intense training with the legendary Lee Strasberg at the Actors Studio, ready to break past the limits Hollywood stuck on her and prove she was so much more than a cute TV image. Her training completely flipped her confidence and skill, turning her from a familiar TV favorite into a real artist ready to chase the heavy, meaningful roles she always wanted. That fire paid off in 1976 when she shocked everyone with her powerful performance in the TV movie Sybil. In the film, she played a young woman dealing with dissociative identity disorder, a role that demanded serious emotional range and focus. Sally's work was so intense and real that critics couldn't stop talking about it, and she ended up winning an Emmy for the performance, a true turning point that shifted the whole path of her career. For the first time, the industry stopped looking at Sally Field as the cheerful sitcom star and finally saw her as a dramatic heavyweight who could carry any role thrown at her. Sybil cracked open doors she had been pushing at for years, letting her step into deeper stories that let her show her full ability as an actress. Everything built up to a peak in 1979 when she starred in Norma Ray, playing a Southern textile worker who rises up to become a union activist. She brought so much courage and raw honesty to the role that it hit audiences and critics straight in the heart. Her performance earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress, and her emotional moment on stage, saying, "You like me, you really like me," became one of the most unforgettable Oscar moments ever. Through the 1980s, Sally kept proving she wasn't slowing down, taking on roles that showed just how wide her range really was. She teamed up on screen with Burt Reynolds in Smokey and the Bandit, 1977, and The End, 1978, and the chemistry between them turned into a real-life romance everyone in Hollywood was talking about. Even though the relationship eventually ended, it was still a major part of her life and career during that era. Her performances in Places in the Heart, 1984, which earned her a second Oscar, and Steel Magnolias, 1989, pushed her even further into legendary territory. In every role, she brought a mix of strength and vulnerability, playing women who stood tall, loved hard, and kept going with incredible heart. Year after year, Sally Field proved her power wasn't temporary. It was the real deal. She once again won over audiences in Forrest Gump, 1994, playing Tom Hanks' wise and loving mother, a role that became iconic all over again. She later returned to television and earned more praise for her work in ER and Brothers and Sisters, where she played a strong but tender matriarch, trying to guide her family through modern life with compassion and grit. Her role in Brothers and Sisters earned her another Emmy Award, proving once again that she was still one of TV's strongest talents, even as she moved into her 70s. Field kept pushing herself, stepping into bold roles without hesitation. She stunned Broadway crowds with a powerful performance in The Glass Menagerie, and later brought fierce depth to Mary Todd Lincoln in Steven Spielberg's Lincoln, 2012, a role that earned her another Oscar nomination. Outside of acting, she became a loud and fearless voice for women's rights, LGBTQ+ equality, and mental health awareness, using her influence to lift people up and spark real conversations. In 2018, Field opened the door to her private world with her memoir In Pieces, where she shared honest stories about her struggles with confidence, her victories, and the heartbreaks she carried over the years. The book showed the strength behind her softness, touching dozens of readers who connected with her honesty and resilience. Her personal life was just as layered as her career. Sally Field's first marriage was to Stephen Craig in 1968, right as she was shifting away from the light-hearted fame of Gidget and the Flying Nun and trying to reshape herself into a serious actress. Their relationship grew during a time of huge change for her both personally and professionally. Even though the two separated in 1973 and officially divorced in 1975, they shared two sons, Peter Craig, born in 1969, and Eli Craig, born in 1972, both of whom built strong Hollywood careers of their own. Peter became a respected novelist and screenwriter, contributing to major films like The Town, 2010, and Top Gun, Maverick, 2022. Eli made his mark as both an actor and director, earning attention for his dark comedy Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, 2010. Sally often talks proudly about her sons, highlighting the tight bond they share through all the twists and turns of her long career. For her, motherhood was the foundation that kept her steady in the unpredictable world of show business. After her marriage to Stephen Craig ended, Sally stepped into one of the most talked-about romances of her entire life, her relationship with Hollywood icon Burt Reynolds. Their story kicked off in 1976 and ran through 1980, turning into one of the most covered love stories of that era. They first met while filming the hit action comedy Smokey and the Bandit, 1977, a blockbuster that turned them into a beloved pair on-screen and off. Their chemistry was impossible to ignore, and they went on to work together in 3 more films: The End, 1978, Hooper, 1978, and Smokey and the Bandit 2, 1980. But behind the scenes, their relationship was intense, emotional, and at times difficult. Field later explained that she cared for Reynolds deeply, yet he struggled with vulnerability and control, 2 things that eventually made it hard for them to stay together. They ended their relationship in 1980, though they continued an on and off connection until finally parting for good in 1982. Even years later, both spoke about each other with emotion and respect. In his 2015 memoir, Reynolds famously referred to Sally Field as the love of my life. In her own 2018 memoir, In Pieces, Field described their relationship as emotional, complicated, and at times challenging, painting a clearer picture of the bond that shaped so much of her early Hollywood years. In 1984, Sally Field found love once more when she married film producer Alan Greisman. By that time, she had already secured her place as one of Hollywood's most admired actresses, having won 2 Academy Awards, one for Norma Ray, 1979, and another for Places in the Heart, 1984. This new chapter marked another shift in both her life and career, showing how she continued to evolve without ever losing her strength or sense of self. With Alan Greisman, she welcomed her third son, Sam, in 1987, a moment that added fresh joy and purpose to her life. Field has often spoken warmly about Sam, now a writer and advocate, and about the tight, loyal bond that holds her family together. Even with a demanding career, she always put motherhood first, calling the balance tough, but deeply meaningful. But like many Hollywood relationships, her marriage to Greisman eventually faded, and the two divorced in 1994 after 10 years together. Around this time, stories from sets all over Hollywood were being whispered, but few grabbed attention the way the tension between Sally Field and Tommy Lee Jones did. Their behind-the-scenes friction became one of the most talked-about chapters in her career. Both Field and Jones were respected, Oscar-winning performers known for seriousness and dedication, but their time together on Back Roads, 1981, was famously rough. Field, always honest about her experiences, never held back about how difficult she found the situation. "I've worked with difficult men before," she once said, "but Tommy was something else entirely. He was impossible to deal with. I truly hated him more than anyone I've ever worked with." Her words showed just how draining that job had been for her. At the time, both were climbing in Hollywood in their own ways. Sally had already shown her dramatic power in Norma Ray, 1979, and Smokey and the Bandit, 1977, while Tommy Lee Jones was building his reputation with intense, no-nonsense roles and a reputation for working with absolute seriousness. Their chemistry on screen looked charged and real, and that was because much of it was real. Field later admitted that plenty of those explosive moments didn't need acting at all. "Every look, every line between us was loaded," she said. "I wasn't pretending to be angry at him, I was." The tension came from their completely opposite acting styles. Sally worked openly, emotionally, and liked collaboration, while Jones was known for staying brooding, guarded, and fully locked into his own process, making their partnership almost impossible to navigate. Tommy Lee Jones worked in a methodical, shut-off way, often brushing off other people's input, and that clashed hard with Sally Field's need for respect and basic empathy. "He could be condescending," she explained. "He treated me like I didn't know what I was doing, and I had already won an Academy Award. It was insulting." Crew members later said the whole set felt heavy and tense, full of long silences and clear frustration between the two stars. Ironically, all that hostility made their on-screen chemistry almost electric. Critics praised how raw and real their scenes felt, not realizing the tension came straight from real life. Field later admitted she turned all her irritation into fuel for the role. "I used every ounce of frustration I felt toward Tommy, and it was weirdly cathartic," she said. But once filming wrapped, she didn't hide her feelings. She would never work with him again. "I couldn't stand being in the same room with him," she stated. Tommy Lee Jones never answered her comments publicly, but his silence said, "Enough." Known for his blunt, no-nonsense personality and dislike for Hollywood chatter, he waved off feud rumors as nonsense, though insiders knew his temperament often clashed with strong-willed co-stars. One crew member from Back Roads remembered, "Sally gave as good as she got. She didn't back down, and that only made things more intense between them. It was like watching two storms collide." Years later, Field could laugh about parts of it, but the irritation never fully faded. "I suppose he's a brilliant actor," she said. "But that doesn't mean you have to like the person. I didn't. I hated him." Her honesty struck fans, who respected her for refusing to pretend everything in Hollywood is smooth and friendly. She reminded people that acting partnerships aren't always warm or easy. "People assume actors become friends after filming," she said. "That's not always true. Sometimes you just survive it." Even decades later, Backroad sits as a small footnote in their careers, remembered more for the explosive energy between its stars than for the movie itself. Both actors went on to stack major wins in their careers. Sally Field's Shining in Places in the Heart, 1984, and Steel Magnolias, 1989, and Tommy Lee Jones scoring massive hits with The Fugitive, 1993, and No Country for Old Men, 2007. Their time together remained a reminder that creative fire can burn bright even when the people behind it can't stand each other. Sally Field's feelings toward Tommy Lee Jones never softened, not even decades later. Her words, sharp, honest, and full of emotion, stand as one of Hollywood's most unforgettable confessions about two co-stars who simply couldn't vibe. "He may be talented," she said, "but talent doesn't excuse cruelty. I'd rather work with anyone else." That blunt, unfiltered truth sums up exactly who Sally Field is. A woman who built her career on passion, realness, and the guts to call things out even when it makes people uncomfortable. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, and I'll see you on the next one.